I am Nu-Trix, and a new year and new gear. Of course, it's always a fun thing to start the year with new equipment in the studio. That's why in the last week had to find a way to reconfigure the setup, repatch everything. I'll do a video about how I patched it this time, so I give you ideas on how everything can be synced. And honestly, I think all of my gear now has an internal sequencer or arpeggiator, so sync is an issue that has to be solved so that everything here works correctly, and it does. So I'll do another video about that. But today I want to talk about the MiniFreak. I'm happy to have received this from Arturia in the last week, just before Christmas. Got this little baby. Arturia sent it out so I can test it out, do reviews, demo, talk about it. They don't pay me for it. It's really just a unit that I can use and demo with it. I was already a fan of the original MicroFreak, and the MiniFreak builds on it. It's different. Of course, it has, I would say, the same DNA, but it has differences that are important enough that you might want to keep your MicroFreak, or you might want to look for this, depending on how you include it into your workflow and how you work with it. It's just a fun thing to use and to explore. And I've been playing with this for like 5 days now, and I have plenty of ideas popping up in my head. I could start this song. Oh, I could use this for this. It's just really inspiring. So if you didn't like the sound of the original MicroFreak, so the MiniFreak's not for you. It's basically the same engine but more powerful. If you like the curiosity and the weirdness and the fun factor of the MicroFreak, the MiniFreak is perfectly adapted to your needs. So let's actually look into what this does. Today we will compare the MicroFreak and the MiniFreak. What are they made of? What are its differences? The first logic would be the physical aspect of it. I mean, the MiniFreak is bigger. You have 37 keys. These are mini keys. These are not full-size keys. They are sensitive to velocity and aftertouch. So you can assign another value or reaction to the aftertouch on each key. Now, it's not polyphonic aftertouch. That's something you would find in the original MicroFreak. So right away, the original MicroFreak, first of all, it's smaller. You get 25 keys instead of 37, and so an octave less. And this one does polyphonic aftertouch. So each key has a different aftertouch, which you don't have on this one. So because of the design of the keyboard, you can have that in this. So you can use a battery-powered USB adapter to this. So it's not internal battery, but it's USB powered. So it's very lightweight and portable if this is something you like. The other one is bigger, and honestly, the other one is surprisingly heavy. So this thing is in metal. All the bottom plate is metal. The top layer, I think it's plastic, but I'm not sure. I think it's because this is sensitive to the touch. So I think most of it is there's the top layer is plastic, but the bottom layer is all metal. So it's very heavy compared to this one, which is very, very lightweight. The outputs are really not the same. What you have on the old MicroFreak, what you had on the MicroFreak, which you don't have on the MiniFreak, are the option of CV and gate out. So you've got CV and gate outs here. Pressure out, so pressure from the keyboard. So if you want to use your keyboard in relationship with another device that receives CV and gates, the MicroFreak is built for that. Whereas this one only have clock in and clock out and reset out. So you can synchronize the MiniFreak with clock, but you cannot send to a CV, let's say modular synthesizer, but this one can. This one can be included in a small modular connection if you need to. The MIDI connectors are simple, 1/8 of an inch, which I understand, but I prefer 5-pin DIN. For me, a 5-pin DIN seems more stable, tougher, to support plugging in and plugging it out in the long run. And you have an mono out. That one has a stereo out, because in the new one you also have effects, so that's a big plus. And on the MiniFreak, you have a stereo input. So you can send signal through it and it can actually process it in different ways. Whereas this one, the vocoder part, which added an audio in, existed later on as a firmware update, and it's part of the headphone jack. So it's kind of hidden somewhere here in the headphone jack, and it works really just for the vocoder. I really like the layout of the MiniFreak, the way it's easy to use. But sometimes when you look at it, there's some features that I know exist, but I don't see it on the panel. So there's hidden features, and I'll do another video just for that because there's a lot of them. But you can still very quickly get to them, either with a press of a knob at the same time or going to the menu and access to more specific features that are inside the internal menu. MicroFreak has one ribbon controller here, which is by default the pitch band, but you can assign other things to that, and in different ways when you're in sequencer mode or an arpeggiator, it could be used for other things. Whereas in the MiniFreak, you have two sliders, same logic, same quality, type of controller. By default, you get a pitch band and the modulation, but then you have these two can be assigned to whatever you want. So they can be controlling multiple destination, two controllers here. And the last one is to control the way the gate of the sequencer and the arpeggiator would work. So you've got instant control over the length of your note, and the spice was kind of the not randomized, but almost random type of approach. So variation, you would say, of your sequence happening. So really cool to have these straight here to move. Of course, the matrix, which is one of the best thing you have on this, is the way that the matrix is laid out and easy to use. The one that is on the MicroFreak is smaller than the MiniFreak because, of course, there's less. On the MicroFreak, there's less sources and destination, whereas this one has more. So automatically, the matrix grows with the option. But the basic logic of the engine and the synthesis is the same because you've got these 15, 16 different engine. You can pick one and use it, and it goes through an analog filter. Now, because this one is monophonic, well, paraphonic, up to 4 notes of paraphonic. This one is with one filter, whereas that one has 6 notes of polyphony. The 6 notes you can play on this one, they all go through one separate analog filter. So you've got 6 analog filters on the MiniFreak, which is honestly one of the most powerful thing you can have. To have an analog filter with a digital oscillator, I think it's the best combination you can have because you get that precise value you can have with digital, and you have got a wealth of different type of sources you can pick from. But then you go through the filter, which gives you that analog raw sound that most people like. And that combination is just a great choice. You see that in many, many different, powerful synthesizer, and it gives you a very powerful, small footprint, but big sound and a huge amount of options of engines. And it's a polyphonic synthesizer for a very affordable price for a polyphonic synthesizer. So really, really interesting. There's a difference in the options of engines because on the MiniFreak, you've got 2 oscillators, and the 2 of them, you can load different sources, different type of engine in them, but they don't have exactly the same thing as the MicroFreak. For example, the MicroFreak has a vocoder. The MiniFreak does not have one. I would say yet. I have no information about if they're going to release one later on. My guess is they will, because why would you not have a vocoder? I mean, you already have the code for this one. Now, in this one, you have an audio in at the back, so it's even easier to make a vocoder. So my guess it's going to come up in an update soon, but I have no information about that. You also have a wavetable that you put your own user sample in the MicroFreak. This is not available on the MiniFreak. So if that part is really important for you, the MiniFreak will not do that. Again, I would say yet. My guess is they're going to have to do it, because everybody who used the MicroFreak and said, this is great, when you look at the MiniFreak, you go, well, that's something I would like to have, to put my own tables or a sample in the wavetable. There's also an editor for the MicroFreak, which is basically really just an editor. I mean, you can back up the memory, you can back up the presets, and you can import wave into your wavetable into the memory of the MicroFreak. Well, in the MiniFreak, you don't have an editor. You have a full-fledged copy of the MiniFreak. So you've got this virtual synthesizer, which is the MiniFreak V, that only comes for people who registered the MiniFreak as a full synthesizer and they bought it. The way it works, you have the interface so you can see everything you have for the MiniFreak. I'll do another video just to show you how the MiniFreak V works, because what's interesting is when you combine the MiniFreak with the V version, in real time you change the value and change on screen. When you change on screen, change in the synthesizer. It's both ways. You're kind of working the two devices at the same time. So it's an editor. At the same time, you can save the memory, you can back up stuff, and all your value on the synthesizer becomes controllers for the virtual one. So it's a really cool integration you have. So it is an editor / manager, but it's not like for this one when it's really just a preset manager and import your own sound into this for the wavetable. There's no wavetable user part in the MiniFreak, so that part does not exist, but there's again, I'm guessing that they will do it at one point, but they don't have the editor yet. Or they might not even have one because they approach it in a different way. Maybe we'll have a MicroFreak V. That'd be cool. That'd be cool. There's 3 effects processor, so that part is really a cool thing. It was one of the thing that was kind of sad about the original MicroFreak is that you had a great sounding synth, but there was no effects on it. But still, it's not a big deal. I mean, most people have effects processor, and in the worst case, when you record it, you go through effects. So it's not a huge deal if you want to do it in studio, but still, it wasn't part of it. Now it's part of the sound. You can save it with a preset, and there's 3 of them. So it's really powerful. 3 different effects processor, and each of them, they have, I don't know, 9 or 10 different effects you can pick from. So very complete. And again, there's preset for them and other hidden features there. They sound really nice. There's 2 LFOs in the MiniFreak. There's only 1 in the MicroFreak. But on top of that, the LFOs on the MiniFreak, you can actually design the LFO. So you can design the shape of it. You can do it on the machine itself, or you can do it with the V version. But you can basically design a just weird LFO the way you want it. There's also a difference in the sequencer. The sequencer, well, it's easier to work on the sequencer of the MiniFreak because you got more space to have the information. You have the same 64-step maximum per pattern limit if you want, but there's 2 patterns you can save with a preset on the MicroFreak, and then there's only 1 pattern you can save on the MiniFreaks. I don't know why, but this is how it's made. So if you want to have more than 1 pattern, you will basically have to save a different preset and switch between presets. So it will be a different way to do it. Oh, another difference is that in the MiniFreak, the Oscillator 1 has an audio in, which is something that we didn't have in the MicroFreak. The audio in then can be used to send any sound you want in it, but the Oscillator 2 can become a processing unit for the audio in. So you can have filters, you can have comb filtering, you can have distortion. They call it destroy. So there's different types of modification you can do on what comes in. So Oscillator 2 can be used as a modifier or processing unit for Oscillator 1, which is the audio input. So that's also a different way. Really interesting. So I'm curious how people will use this, because there's an option there that you can be very wide and very rich. All the other synth engines are basically the same. If you want to know more about them, click here. What I talked about, the original MicroFreak synth engines are here if you want to know more about them. So in a nutshell, the MiniFreak is less portable because it doesn't run on USB battery. It's not USB powered, so that's the difference. But it's still very small, lightweight. It's not super heavy, but it's heavier than the MicroFreak because the bottom part is all metal. It's much more interesting because the space on it is bigger. You get more information. The sequencer, it's easier to use because of the space you have. The sound of it is the same sound, but more interesting because you've got the effects on top of that, and you can combine two oscillators into creating bigger sounds. So it's always a fun synthesizer. There's a lot of features on it. I'll do another video why this might be one of the best synthesizer for beginners. And it's also a super fun synthesizer for advanced users because you do stuff in this that you can find anywhere else or very rarely into the same package. And the fact that your two oscillators can have all these different sources of synth engine, it's just super rare to have that. And the matrix of modulation is so complete and simple that even your modulator can be modulated. So it's almost at one point some type of modular synth, because even outside of the section that is the matrix, there's a lot of other modulation that you can control. And I'll do another video about that because it's just super powerful in that modulation sense. So I would say that if you want a super portable synthesizer that also can do modular connection with the CV outs, the MicroFreak is the one. If you want a more complete synthesizer, polyphonic synth with all the capacity of the other one, but more control, more options, and the fact that you can use it as a processor, you can send any sound through it, and you have the exact same engine in your synth, in your computer as a software, plus you've got effects, I'd say the MiniFreak is for you. In my case, I have almost nothing modular now. So if I had to get rid of one of the two, I would get rid of the MicroFreak and I would keep the MiniFreak because I can do most of the sound I have here. I set up a couple of type and then more because this has two of them. And it's just, it can be so wide in the richness and the type of sound you can make. That is why I'm saying it's a cool synth to start. You can do some very digital type of sounds and some very analogish type of sounds and some drum beatbox type of sounds and the sequencer. It's just make your choice, decide which one's the best for you, or pick something else. I mean, I don't care. But if you're looking between the two of them, there's still a lot of differences. It's not just like this one twice as powerful. It's not that. It's another synthesizer in the same family of the Freak synthesizers from Arturia. I'm just now curious. Now it kind of seems that they want to do a family of Freak synth. Maybe a Freak drum at one point. That'd be so cool. That's it. Stay safe, make more music, and see you soon.